All right, this session is being recorded, so I'm going to go ahead and have Josh go ahead and get started. So welcome, Josh. Everybody knows Josh from School Dude.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and glad we could put all this together. Great to see all you guys. My monitors are on either side of me, so every once in a while I might take a look to see Vin's face or someone that's sticking out in the crowd, so that I can know that I'm not standing in my garage in an 82-degree sweat box, and that's why I'm wearing a hat and a t-shirt, because this is my dedicated space to speak. Really, yesterday was 11 years ago that I was able to speak for the first time, and it was to Connecticut ASBO, and it was a powerful experience for me. It wasn't my best experience, but I've improved a little bit over time. But it's you guys have really always been there for me and for Dude Solutions, aka School Dude. And when I had heard about the Leadership Institute being canceled, and knowing all the work that you had put into having the event, and I remember going back to last August, starting to plan to speak, I was really upset. And so I did what anybody that's upset might do. Had a few drinks and came up with an idea. And the idea was to put a couple of great, really dynamic, incredible speakers that have powerful stories to help us with our mindsets, help us with our attitudes right now. If you look at the 6 phases of disaster, and we're in phase 5, which is the crash phase, we're close to phase 6, which is the reconstruction phase. But this is really a pivotal time for us. And I've said this before when I speak, death, disease, divorce, drugs, doesn't discriminate. Before COVID, 1 in 3 of the people that are on this call right now are dealing with something devastating and difficult. I think it's probably even greater right now. It's important more than ever for us to take care of each other, look out for each other, lean on each other, tap into the Connecticut ASBO organization, and be working together through all of this, because it's all uncharted territory. So the speakers that I brought to you today are just amazing humans. The first one who's going to open up is become one of my nearest and dearest friends, and I met him through LinkedIn, and he wrote a book, and he'll tell you about it. But I didn't know anything about this guy until I met him in person at a Starbucks to record a podcast in Madison, Wisconsin, one rainy night in 2018, in November 2018. And his name is David Cooks. He's coming to us all the way from Wisconsin today. That's what the beauty of all of this virtual is we've got people from all over the place together and connected, looking like the big old Brady Bunch right here. This behind me, before I start, behind me, now that I see Holly, and she's here, I wanted to hold the story. But the picture behind me is at West Point when we did the tour in 2016. I've had so many incredible experiences with you, whether it was the Coast Guard Academy, the Leadership Institute, learning how to be interviewed when you had the reporter come in years and years and years ago. The West Point experience, you guys have always just stepped up the bar with your Leadership Institutes. 2016 was no exception. And Holly, in 2016 at the banquet, you guys every year say such nice things about Dude Solutions, School Dude, and me as a person. And Holly just shouts out, "Peach for president," in 2016, and she said it ever since. So for your incoming presidency, this is a big reason of putting this together, Holly. I know how much work you did, and the rest of the board and the planning committee did. I really thank you for all of your hard work and your friendship and your support to me over the years. So I'm going to let David Cooks talk to you guys for the next 20, 30 minutes, share a little bit of his story, and then we're going to get to 2 more. It's very rare to have 3 really great speakers back to back like this. I hope you enjoy it. Really appreciate all of you, and we'll talk to you shortly.
All right, I think we're on. Hello, everybody. I am David Cooks. I am excited to do this. I don't know about the dream team thing. I just hope I'm not the nightmare part of it. I think we'll be okay. I won't be long. I hope to leave you with some things that will keep you encouraged and give you some direction as we move forward. Before I get started, I would like to talk a little bit about my book. I have a book that's called Getting Undressed. The title of it, the subtitle is From Paralysis to Purpose. Most people see the getting undressed portion, so I need to address that. This book is not a sequel to 7 Shades of Grey or any one of those books. So if you are looking for some pictures in here of different things, you're not going to find that. But it is a book that spends time on talking about what we all do. We all get undressed. We all change clothes. And we do it normally more than once a day, even when we're in things like this right now. Getting undressed is all about, it's like a rebranding, a starting over. And the thing that I find interesting is that the clothes that you put on really indicate where you're going. The clothes that you took off is your past. And we're dealing in a time now where we're not sure what the future looks like, but we need to be prepared to change our clothes and into whatever that's going to be so we can lead from the future. So that's pretty important. I coached basketball. I was in education for 25 years. I taught economics. I was in administration. I have an MBA. I've done business. I've been fortunate to do a lot of things. But I want to talk a little bit about my story first, and then I'll get into some other things and leave you with a few things to hopefully help us continue to get through where we are. I grew up as a kid here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I loved to play basketball. Basketball was a big part of my life. Went to the playgrounds, played every day, did all of that. There's this thing in basketball called a flagrant foul. And a flagrant foul in basketball is not your ordinary foul. It's a really hard foul that's intended to keep you from scoring and also to make you think about going into the lane next time to score again. Well, I was 15 years old. I woke up on October 19th, 1979, on my way to school. I went to Marquette High School, a Jesuit high school here in Milwaukee. We had our exams that day, woke up with a little back pain. I wasn't too concerned. I had just had a physical the week before. The doctors had given me a clean bill of health. I'm good to go. I didn't make the team freshman year, so I was very frustrated about that and spent all of that next summer working and getting my skills ready. Woke up that morning, had a little back pain, didn't think much of it. Within 24 hours, I had a spinal aneurysm, and it left me a T6 paraplegic. I've been in a wheelchair now for for a little over 40 years. I know I look really young, but I'm not as young as you think. And so life had issued me a flagrant foul. And so at that point, I had to figure something out. And the thing that's interesting about a flagrant foul is that it's meant to keep you from scoring. But when it happens, you actually get the ball. You get 2 free throws and you get possession of the ball. So you're given opportunities to score again. And if there's one thing I have learned over life is that when things happen, there's always opportunity associated on the other side of it if you can see past it. And so for me, graduating from high school was a chance for me to score. I finished with my class, did pretty well. Went on to college, graduated from college, played wheelchair basketball, was an All-American. I scored again. And what I began to understand, I worked at a bank, something I've always wanted to do. Became an officer of the bank. I kept scoring. I was given my life back, and that represented 2 shots in the ball. And as far as I was concerned, until the clock says 0-0 and I have no breath left, I'm going to continue to try to score with my life. And that's the message today, is that in the midst of this pandemic, we have all been limited in our ability to do the things that we normally do. In a different kind of way, we all have become, if I can say that, disabled some, less able to do what we are able to do. But it doesn't stop us from winning. It doesn't stop us from moving forward. I remember when I graduated from college and I started working at the bank, and I had a mentor at the bank. And he was helping me learn how to be a banker and be a businessman and do all those things. Mentoring is so important. And one of the things he did for me, he knew I loved basketball. And so he said, Cooks, why don't you start coaching one of the bank teams? And I didn't know what that meant. I said, sure, I'll do that. Well, that was interesting. That wasn't coaching basketball like I thought. That was coaching men who had families and kids. And if I yelled at them, they yelled back at me. So that wasn't exactly what I thought I'd be doing. But I used it as an opportunity to fuel my passion. And it's interesting for me because obstacles and difficulty, I became paralyzed, but my passion and my dreams never did. So in the midst of situations, the thing that's in you that you're supposed to do doesn't die unless you let it die. And so I continued to pursue basketball. I went to Duke University in 1991 to get my MBA, my master's in business. And I went there and I said, you know what? I'm going to go see if I can talk to Coach K. I think I want to see if I can help and be a part of the program. Now, I didn't know him. I didn't know anybody down there, but I thought I had something to offer. And what the heck, take a risk. If he says no, I'm still going to get my MBA. I'm still down here doing what I'm going to do. Well, I kept going to see him and they kept telling me he was on vacation. And I'm thinking, how much vacation does this guy get? Is he ever going to come back? So I think they're blowing me off. And eventually I go one day and there's a guy in the room. His name was Tony Lang. I didn't know Tony. And Tony said to me, hey, aren't you the guy from Wisconsin? And I hesitated because I didn't know him. I was the guy from Wisconsin, but I wasn't sure why he would know me. And he began to talk and he said, hey, I saw you in Florida coaching with an AAU team. And I loved how you related with your players. Are you here to help us? So he says this in the middle of the basketball office with people there. And I'm geeked up. I'm like, absolutely, I'm here to help you. That's why I'm here. And, you know, I'm thinking I'm in. And so I get eventually to meet Coach K. And the reason I tell that little part of the story is because sometimes we don't understand who's actually watching what we're doing. And we do things because it's the right thing to do and we're trying to serve. And you never know who's watching and who can help you move forward with your own purpose in life. And Tony did that for me. I get a chance to meet Coach K. And there are no positions available for me that first year. So he said, I want you to come to practice and do that kind of stuff. And so I wait around and I sit and I watch games. This is when Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill were there. And for those of you who don't know, that was a national championship team and some of the greatest players to ever play there. And so I sat around and I waited. And the next year he pulls me in his office and he said, Cooks, we'd love for you to be a part of the program. And I said, great. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a coaching job. And he said, I'd like for you to be a manager. And I said, okay. And a manager fills water bottles and washes jerseys and that kind of stuff. And I'm 28 years old. I'm getting my MBA. And I'm offered a job that a high school graduate is offered. But I take it. I take that job and I become the best Gatorade maker in the country in my mind. And people are asking me in the business school, you know, what are you doing with them? What do you do every day? And I said, I'm helping them win championships because that's what I saw my worth as. I was helping them win. And my role was to help them win. So I just tell these stories. I don't have time to go into all of it, but obviously that catapulted me on a much larger scale from a coaching standpoint. I continued to coach up until 4 years ago. Even while I was working in corporate America, working in high school, I continued to coach. Passion never died. I continued to score. Josh said, when Josh Peach called me and said, hey, I want you to give a talk. He had called me. And I said to him, man, it's just a good day to be alive. And he said, what? And I said, yeah. And so I had been contacted about a month earlier by a podcast to come and talk to them about how to thrive and how to survive when you're at home. What they didn't know was in November of last year, I went to the emergency room thinking that I had the flu. It turned out to be sepsis. And so I was bedridden, had a setback in December, had to have surgery in January. And I was bedridden and was getting some less restricted bedridden time just in time for the stay home COVID-19. So here I am, I'm all juiced up that I can actually get out of bed a little bit, but now I got to stay home. So when the person asked me about speaking on the podcast, and they said, well, what's going on? I said, it's just a great day to be alive. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you know what? Every day that I'm alive is an opportunity for me to get better. For me to get better at something. I had been unemployed since November. All the speaking gigs were canceled all year. And now I'm sitting here and I still can't go anywhere. It was my job to find a way to get better every day. And that's what I did. Let me give you 4 keys that I think will help in this time. Okay. Number 1, be grateful. Be grateful. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that there is always something to complain about. Legitimately, always. You have to fight not to complain. You can't be grateful and complain at the same time. They can't coexist. And so the challenge in all of this is to find something daily that you can be thankful for and focus and meditate on that. Number 2, be intentional. Be intentional. Be intentional about serving somebody else. As difficult as that is now with our inability to go places and do things, their technology has made this wonderful. That person that you were going to call, that person that you were going to visit, that person that you were going to send a text to, do it today. Do something like that every day. The ability for us to forget ourselves and go outside of who we are, in my mind, is a mark of a great leader. Leadership is grateful. They see the positive in things. They serve other people, and they're intentional about it. They don't happen to just come across it. It's something they plan on doing. Number 3, be creative. Be creative. I heard someone say this, and it's so true. It is clear that we are transitioning from brick and mortar to click and order. I'll say that again. That we are transitioning from brick and mortar to click and order. And we've got to become creative in how we did what we used to do. It's time to change clothes. It's time to get undressed. There's some new outfits to wear going forward, and your creative juices are going to be important. As I said, I've been in education 25 years. I was in education for 25 years. If there is one thing, and I'm married to a math teacher, an 8th grade math teacher, bless her soul. I don't know how she does that. And so I'm living through the change, and I'm living and watching her struggle and deal with that. But the one thing that this pandemic has taught us, in my mind, is the value of people connected to education. If you don't know your value, if you didn't know your value, it is extraordinarily high. This country's existence is based on education. You as leaders, teachers, that kind of stuff. When I went back to Marquette High at the age of 15, and I was the only person in a wheelchair, I needed my teachers. I needed the custodians. I needed the building maintenance people so that I could get around and do all the things that I was going to have to do to be successful. That need is still there. And let me just say this, whenever I talk to people that are connected with education, you give yourself a round of applause, pat yourself on the back. You are valuable, and what you do is immeasurable. Number 4, lastly, be selfish. I'll say that again. Be selfish. And you're like, wait a minute. You just told me to be grateful, to help other people, be creative. And now you said be selfish. Absolutely. Take care of yourself. Make you a priority. Self-care right now is more important than probably anything you can do. I talk to basketball players who right now, they don't have a season, they went home and that kind of stuff. And I asked them, what did you do today to get better as a basketball player? Did you do some push-ups? Did you jump rope in the backyard? Did you work on some ball handling skills in your driveway? What did you do today to make yourself become better? Find that. Spend that time. You may not have a lot of it, but there's something that you will need to do for yourself. Don't be afraid to be selfish for that. Lastly, I'll say this. This is not one of the 4. Laugh. L-A-U-G-H. Find something to laugh about at least once a day. But if you can do that 3 or 4 times a day, you've had a great day. You have been grateful about something. You've meditated on that. You have served somebody else. You've had a creative thought. You took care of yourself and exercise, and you laughed. That right there is an absolute full day. I think my time is up. I just want to share that with you and encourage you and understand that if you can't see opportunity on the other side of obstacles, you will never get past that obstacle. Start looking for opportunities. Leaders lead from the future. Leaders who lead from the past get left behind. We must lead from the future. There's risk involved in that, but where there's risk, there's great reward. I appreciate this opportunity. You guys were great. I saw you laughing and smiling. You've been engaged, you've been taking notes. I appreciate this opportunity. Hope you have a great, great day and a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, David. You, every time, knock it out of the park, inspire me. And you know, David is the part of that story that he didn't say when I called him was I was having the worst day that I could imagine I could have. And I was having some stinking thinking, and he answered the phone with, "It's a great day to be alive." And that opening, instead of hello, changed my entire mindset. So one thing I'm going to keep saying is make sure you got those positive people around you, because they do make the difference, all the difference in the world. He gave you four takeaways. Next guy's going to give you a number 4 as well. I don't know if they all plan to put this all together, but Eddie Slowikowski is a friend that I've just gotten to meet over the last year or so. He's got a great story. I definitely had some different thoughts until I met him about what he did, and I'll share with you afterwards. But I'm going to let Eddie go ahead and take a couple minutes here and talk with you guys, and we'll be back shortly.
Attention, attention please. It is now time for the 1-mile run. We need all mile contestants to please make their way to the starting line.
This was it. An opportunity of a lifetime. A chance for me to actually make one of my dreams in life come true. You see, back since I was in high school, I had the dream of one day running a mile under 4 minutes. Breaking the 4-minute mile meant that you were world class. Now, these opportunities don't come by every day. So when they do, you have to seize it. For what does it take to make your bigger goals or dreams in life come true? How do you live an extraordinary life? Well, for me, it comes down to 2 simple words: preparation and performance. Let me take you back to the year 1990. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts, at the Boston University Armory Indoor Track, getting ready for one of the biggest races of my life. Let me tell you what happened. Runners, take your mark. We were off. At the start of the race, everybody jumps off the line and has to get into position. It's important to get out safely and get into the position you need to be. My position, my game plan was to get out and follow my teammate, Andre Fambi. He was going to go take the lead. I was going to get right behind him. He was going to be the rabbit in the race. Now, the rabbit in the race is the guy who goes out to the lead and sets the pace. They only run half the race, but they run the pace you have to run if you want to break the 4-minute mile. His job was to get out to the lead. I was supposed to follow him, and that's exactly what happened. So now the race has begun. Now it was 8 laps to the mile on this indoor track. So do the math. 30 seconds a lap. That's what we had to average to run a 4-minute mile. First lap is going. I remember I kept running up on Andre's heels, and I was yelling at him from behind saying, "Andre, pick up the pace, man. You're not going fast enough." I'll never forget what he said. He glanced back at me and he said, "Trust me, Eddie, I got this." We're coming around in the first lap. We need to be at 30 seconds to be on pace. Andre brings us through. It feels like it's 34 seconds to me, but he brings us through in 29 seconds. It was perfect. See, now I had to trust in my teammate and calm down and follow his lead. And that's what I began to do. Second lap need to be at 1 minute. We're at 59 seconds. Third lap need to be at 1:30. We're at 1:28. Andre's doing a perfect job setting that pace, and I'm running as comfortably and as confidently as I can right behind him. Now we're coming to the halfway point, where obviously we need to be at 2 minutes to be on pace. Andre brings us through in a perfect 1:59. He now steps off the track. He's done. Now it's up to the rest of the runners to take over. Now my game plan was, there were only 6 guys in this race. I had my eye on one guy. His name was Paul Vandergrip from William and Mary College. I had my eye on him because a week earlier, he ran 4:01. I ran 4:03. I thought he's going to be the guy to beat. So I talked it over with him before the race. I said, Paul, when my teammate drops out, I'll take the 5th lap if you agree to take the 6th lap. Last 2 laps, every man for himself. So he agreed. So I took over the pacing now. Second half of the race has begun. At the 5th lap, we need to be at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I bring us through in 2 minutes and 29 seconds. I now move into lane 2. I'm going to let Paul pass me in lane 1, and I'm going to get right behind him and follow him. As I drift off into lane 2, I'm coming around the turn. My best friend on the team, a teammate of mine, runs up on the infield of the track. As I'm passing, he yells these words to me. Eddie, Paul's not there, man. He's not there. You're going to have to do this yourself. That's what he yelled as I passed. Paul's not there. He was hurting. He was falling back. He wasn't able to take over the lead. I had no idea. I'm out in lane 2 waiting for him to come by, and there was no one there. You're going to have to do this yourself. I'll never forget those words. Because in our lives, as we journey forth toward the life we're trying to create and the difference we're trying to make, of course we need the help of other people. We cannot do this alone. But in every one of our journeys, there comes those moments where it comes down to you and that goal, that dream you say you have. In those moments, you're going to be tested and challenged. How bad do you want it? This was that moment. So I put my head down, headed back into lane 1, was going to have to take it the rest of the way by myself. And now the pain is setting in. Now it's starting to hurt. Oh, this is the moment of truth. This is when you're going to find out how bad you want it. 6th lap. I need to be at 3 minutes. I'm right at 3 minutes. But now my legs are starting to burn. My lungs are hurting. I'm having trouble breathing. But this is why we train. This is why we put in all those miles, all that hard work for this moment here. 7th lap. I'm at 3 minutes and 30 seconds, right where I need to be. I got 1 lap to go. If I can run this last lap under 30 seconds, I can have my dream of breaking the 4-minute mile. But now my lungs are on fire. My legs feel like lead weights. And I'm doing everything I can to try to fight through the pain. I come off the final turn, start heading toward the finish line. I'm thinking, Eddie, fight through this pain. Go all the way to the finish. Do not give up all the way. My time, 3 minutes, 58 seconds. And I did it. The 169th American to run a mile under 4 minutes. I will never forget that day and what that day taught me. What if our lives have unlimited possibilities? How would we live? From this experience, I created a formula that I've been teaching for 2 decades all over the country to associations and organizations. It's called the 4-minute formula. There's 7 steps to it. Step number 1 starts with be clear about what you want. What is the goal, the idea, the objective? Step number 2, create a vision, a shared vision amongst the organization to believe that this can be done. Step number 3, establish your team. Who's going to help you make this happen? Step number 4, you got to create and implement the game plan. Step number 5, what are you going to do when the pain hits? What obstacles do you have to overcome? Step number 6, when are you going to get this done? And step number 7, be a servant leader and give back to the people of your organization. Those are the 7 steps. And in teaching those steps, it requires all of us to come up with, just like a difficult math problem, a formula to get to the solutions. And it takes a team of people to get this done. But in those 7 steps, it gives you the idea of what it's going to take to begin to create and implement that game plan. Now, as school business officials, you wear many hats. And there are many different types of people that you have to deal with. And therefore, I mean, you are such an important cog in the wheel of making that school not only survive, but to thrive. I mean, think about all the stuff you do, from transportation, to food, to healthcare, to safety, to facilities operations, to school resources, to professional development and leadership. There's so many different areas that you have to prepare so you can perform at your highest level. And when you do, you lift the performance of everybody around you. So we're going to today focus on two things that I think are really going to help you make this work, to lift your performance. It's amazing what we can learn from our heroes. And I got to meet one of my heroes. I had an interaction with one of my heroes years ago that taught me something that's really important towards striving to be a peak performer in everything I strive to do. The year was 1999, and I lived in Chicago, Illinois, downtown Chicago. And I was getting ready to head to the health club to play some basketball. So David, you and I have that in common. I love playing basketball too. And there I was heading to the Multiplex Health Club. And I walk into the health club that day, and I start heading to the basketball court. And there's a weird vibe in the place that day. Nobody's working out. There's this big glass partition between the workout area and the basketball court. And everybody's up against the glass partition watching the basketball games that are going on. And there are people standing all around the court. I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. I've never seen that before. But I'm not really paying attention. So I go to the court, and the first thing you got to do is put your name on the list to get into one of the games. So I put my name down on the list, and I'm standing there watching the action on the court, watching what's happening down over here. Out of my peripheral vision, the corner of my eye, I see on this side there is a person warming up who suddenly jumps and dunks the ball and just practicing over here. I look over, I go, who the hell is that? And it was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was standing over there, and he was warming up. And that's why nobody was working out. They're all standing there watching him. They can't believe he was there. I heard rumors that sometimes the Bulls players would come and play there, but I'd never seen anyone. But there was the legend, the GOAT. He was right there. This is after he retired in 1999. And I looked down at the piece of paper of the sign-in, and I can see his name is a few above mine. He signed in to play in the next game, too. I couldn't believe it. I'm going to get a chance to play with Michael Jordan. So the next game comes, and they read off the names, and they divvy up the teams. And unfortunately, Michael is on the other team. So I'm like, oh, no, we're going to play against Michael Jordan. Now, obviously, I'm not going to guard him. I'm 5'8", and I'm like the point guard. And we had one of the biggest guys we had on our team try to guard him, and that was the plan. And so the game begins. We have the ball first, and one of our guys misses a jump shot. Michael jumps in the air and grabs a rebound. And he comes down and starts running right at me. Now, I'm the point guard, and here comes the fast break. Michael Jordan's coming toward me, dribbling the ball, and I'm at half court, and I'm backing up thinking, okay, you got to stop the ball. The point guard's job is to stop the ball. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Michael comes right up on me. He does some kind of move. I trip over my feet, fall flat on my back, and he goes right by and dunks the ball. And everybody's laughing, and I'm laying there, and he runs by me and looks at me and goes, nice defense. So I'm like, oh, my gosh, now he's trash talking. So I think, okay, he's going to be like that. What's the one thing I can do better than Michael Jordan? I can outrun him, okay? I'm a sub-4-minute miler. I have more endurance. I can outlast him. So I, in that moment, make a decision. I'm going to do everything I can to steal the ball from Michael Jordan. What an incredible story to be able to tell my grandkids that one day I stole the ball from Michael Jordan. So I start chasing him everywhere he's going in the court. I'm double-teaming him. I'm not even guarding my guy. And, of course, I can't get the ball from him. He's Michael Jordan. He's killing us. He's scoring. He's doing incredible things, and I can't get the ball from him. And I'm trying with every ounce of energy I have in me. Can't get it. So now the score is like 24-7. We played a 30 or until the time runs out. And I've given up now. I stopped chasing him because I can't get the ball from him. And I look up. I see there's less than 30 seconds to go. And Michael is on the baseline. And he's dribbling the ball with his back toward the basket. Basket's over here. And he's dribbling the ball. He's got a big guy guarding him. And I see what he's doing. He's going to take the last shot. He's going to play out the clock and take the last shot. So this is my last chance. If I'm going to steal the ball from Michael Jordan, this is the last chance I'm going to have to do it. So how can I do it? I can cheat. So I think, okay, I'm on the other side of the court. I think, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sneak out of bounds beyond the baseline where all these people are standing. I'm going to blend into the crowd. I'm going to go all the way around to where he's dribbling the ball. I'm going to come from out of bounds. I'm going to jump out and take the ball, run down, make a layup before the buzzer goes off. And I don't care if it's cheating. I'm going to steal the ball from Michael Jordan. So I drift off out of bounds beyond the baseline. Now I'm on the other side of the court. He can't see me. He's over here like this, dribbling the ball. I sneak within the crowd. I go all the way around. And just as I lunge to jump and get the ball from him, he grabs the ball. He turns. And because he's so tall and I'm so short, I run right into his ass. I bounce off of it, and I fly down on the ground in the crowd. He shoots a 3-point shot, swishes it, the buzzer goes off, he turns and looks at me with fire in his eyes. He goes, "I saw you the whole time, you bitch." Then he walked away. Now, I apologize for the language, but that is what he said to me. And he was serious, he was angry, and he hit the shot. So the point of the story is, and I don't know if you watched The Last Dance, one of the greatest things I've ever seen, that documentary, amazing, about his story and the Chicago Bulls. And I'm born and raised in Chicago. They were our team back then. And his passion for the winning, his commitment to performance, his competitiveness, I mean, his drive to succeed is the greatest I've ever seen. And one thing that I've learned, and no matter what it is you want to do in your life, what extraordinary things you want to try to create for your schools and those children in your communities and the families, is we have to strive to perform at our highest levels. We have to be committed to excellence. And that's going to require a lot of our energy, of our preparation, of our performance, and helping all those around us do the same. See, that's where the service part comes in. So you have to get yourself motivated and passionate about what you do, and you got to have a big why behind why you're doing it. When you start to define that in your own heart, the first part of the formula, what do you want? Create the shared vision with the organization. Can we believe we can do this? If we can, okay. Who's going to do what? Who's the team here? Then we've got to create, implement the plan. Okay, that's where the hard work comes in. That's where the daily activities of our lives, the things we got to get done. But then the pain hits. Just in every race I've ever run, whether I got first place or last place, whether I broke the 4-minute mile or fell off the track, pain has always been a part of the equation when it comes to distance running. It's how we respond to the pain. Now, we're in that right now. How we respond to this is going to be key as to where we are going. There's always going to be obstacles that we have to find our way through. Then you've got to decide, when are we going to get this done? And now the final step, which is the second part I want to focus on, is the service aspect. Being a servant leader. Being a school business official means that you guys, like I said, have to deal with many different types of people in your organization, in your school. You're wearing many hats. So therefore, it is important that you are there to serve others, to help lift their game. And when you do, you start to see incredible results. Now, let me give you a story about what I mean. It's really about helping. Sometimes we got to help people see what they can't see yet. And being in administration and helping run the business of the school means you got to create that clear vision and help other people see it. And together, you create it. Here's an example of that. So I've got 4 kids. My son, Jack, is 18. My daughter, Gracie, is 16. My daughter, Adeline, is 2. And my daughter, Molly, is 5 months old. So 18, 16, 2, and 5 months. And aren't you glad I'm here to talk to you about planning? Okay. But anyway, so I've got these 4 kids. One of my dreams in life before I ever had my children, and which is the greatest gift of my life, before I ever had kids, I always wanted to be the head coach of a Little League baseball team. So just like David was coaching basketball, I wanted to coach baseball when I was an adult. And I thought that would be incredible. I really wanted to coach one of my own kids. That was like my dream. And so my son was born first, and I had shared my dream with people in the neighborhood. I got a really close-knit community here, a lot of great friends in my neighborhood. I told them about my dream. Well, one day on a Saturday, I'm out mowing the lawn. My buddy Tom pulls up in his truck, beeps the horn. I turn off the mower. I said, "Hey, Tommy, what's going on?" He looked at me and said, "Hey, you must be excited today." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Today's sign-ups for Little League Baseball down at the Park District." I said, "Yeah, so?" He's like, "I thought your dream was you wanted to be a head coach." I said, "I do." He's like, "Well, they're signing him up now." I go, "Yeah, but Jack is only 6 years old." He's like, "That's where it begins." I said, "What does?" He said, "T-ball." I said, "It does?" He's like, "Yes, and they're signing him up right now." I didn't even ask my son if he wanted to play. I got into my car and I drove to the Park District and I signed him up. And as I was signing him up, the man behind the registration table looked at me and he said the magic words, "Sir, would you like to be a head coach? We need some head coaches. You want to be a head coach of one of the teams?" I was like, "Yes, that would be incredible." I said, "But hold on, what's the commitment here? What do you need for me to do this?" And he said, "Well, it's a 2-month season. Every Tuesday and Thursday, your team will practice at Sunset Park at 4 p.m. Every Saturday, we have our games between 8 a.m. and noon. We'll get you a schedule." Well, guys, this has been my career for 27 years. And there's no way I could commit to all those days as a speaker. I mean, we go on the road. We go give talks and presentations. Anyone that might want to hear me do what I do. Hey, that's how we feed our family. And so I couldn't commit to all those days. I couldn't be there as the head coach. Head coach has to be there. And I was crushed. I said, oh, I can't commit to all those days. But now here's that service part of me that came forth. And I said, can I be an assistant coach? And I'll help out. I just want to be part of it. I want to help out any way I can. Do you need assistant coaches? And I'll do what I can when I'm able to be there. They said, yes, that's great. We need volunteers to do that as well. We're going to put you and your son on the Orioles. Here's a packet of information. When you go to the first game, go to the head coach, and we'll let him know you're coming, and he'll have a job for you. I said, great. Thank you very much. So I go to the first game. And I was lucky that season. I missed only one of the games because of work. I missed a lot of the practices, but I only missed one game. First game, I go up to the head coach and say, hey, my name is Eddie. I'm here to be your assistant. He's looking at me. He says, yeah, I heard you were coming. Thanks for doing that. He's holding the scorebook in his hand. He's like, do you know how to keep a scorebook? I said, yeah, I do. He's like, here, let's have that be your job. I understand you might not be here for everything, but when you are here, I'd like you to write down what our team does. That way we can track their progress. I said, no problem. I'm here to help. I'll do whatever you need me to do. So that became my job. And that first game, the Orioles lose by 17. It was ugly. Second game, we lost by 15. Third game, we lost by 11. Fourth game was the one I missed. I came home that night, went to my son Jack, said, Jack, how'd we do? We lost. I said, oh, really? How bad was it? 19. I said, oh, we lost by 19? He's like, yeah. Then my son got upset and he said, Dad, I don't like T-ball. I looked at him, I said, really? Why not? He goes, T-ball is boring. Now, if you've ever been to or ever played in a T-ball game, you know he's absolutely right. It is boring. I said, son, I know it's kind of slow, but don't worry. It gets better. You're just learning how to play the game. But then he goes, Dad, we never win. I said, son, you're 6 years old. It doesn't matter who wins. He goes, yes, it does. I go, don't worry. We're going to win. Next game, we lose by 17 again. Game after that, we lost by only 7. We're getting better. And the 7th game, we lost by only 3. Oh, we were so close. Now we're in the final game of the season, and we are the only team that hasn't won. But it looks good for us because we're winning this game 20-12, and the other team's coming to bat for the last time. Now, the reason why this looks guaranteed that we're finally going to win on the final day is because of the rules that we have in T-ball, which are these. If you can't make 3 outs on a team before 9 batters bat, then 9 batters is all you get. We're not going to be there all day. And when the 9th batter hits the ball, all you got to do is pick up the ball, run to home plate, step on the plate, and the inning stops right there. So typically the most runs you can score in an inning under that format are like 7. And we're winning 20-12. Well, just before the last at-bat begins, the head coach on the other team steps on the field, calls a timeout. He walks across the field toward our dugout where I'm standing there with our head coach, and you never see this in T-ball. He's coming over to us. I'm thinking, what does he want? And he comes really close to us, and he leans in. He says, guys, I need to ask you for a favor. He said, it just dawned on me that if we get to 9 batters this inning, our 9th batter scheduled to bat is Matthew. Now, everybody knew Matthew. Matthew was physically challenged, and he wasn't able to walk very well, so he had to use a walker that had wheels on it. And in our league, every kid plays no matter what, which is a great rule. So when he's in the game, he's got to take his walker out to his position with his glove. He does the best he can. And when he bats, he takes his walker up to the batter's box. He hits the ball off the tee himself, but he always has a teammate as a designated runner. So when Matthew hits the ball, the teammate runs the bases for him. Well, the head coach said, if he gets up, since he's the last batter anyway, could we allow him to get down to first base on his own? He hasn't had a chance to do that in a game. He's been doing it in practice, and I think he'd really love that opportunity just to make it to first base on his own. Would that be okay? Well, think about it. What are we going to say? No. We're like, oh, that's what you want? We're like, of course, absolutely. If he gets up, we'll make sure that happens. He's like, thanks, guys. I just wanted to check. So he goes back. Now, the odds of them getting 9 batters up is certainly not guaranteed. We've been playing a really good game, and the umpire says, all right, let's get this game going. We've already got our 2 best guys in the 2 key positions, pitcher's mound and third base, and it's too late to move them. So I don't think Matthew's going to even get a chance because they come to bat, and every kid's hitting the ball like they usually do, right toward the pitcher and third base, right in that area. And as they're hitting the ball toward our two best guys, these two little boys think they're the best guy on the team. So as the ball's coming toward them, they converge on the ball. And instead of picking up the ball and throwing it to first base to make the play, they start wrestling each other for the ball. And every ball, I'm telling you, is going in their direction. And they're fighting each other, wrestling each other, knocking the ball out of their gloves, whipping it up in the air. Every kid's getting safely to first. So now the score is 20-17. Bases are loaded. Nobody's out. Ninth batter's coming to bat. Final batter. Now remember my job. I got the scorebook. As I look down at the scorebook, it dawns on me, if little Matthew hits a grand slam, they're going to beat us by 1. So I quickly got our head coach's attention. I said, hey, coach. He was really angry at our team. He was taking it out on me. He looks and he goes, what? And I said, hey, do you realize if this batter gets a grand slam, they're going to beat us by 1? Then he yells at me. He goes, I'm not concerned about that right now. He starts to walk away. I'm a grown man at a t-ball game. You don't get to yell at me. I said, coach. He goes, what? I said, come over here. He marches over. He's like, what do you want? I want you to calm down and listen. If this batter, look, and standing in the batter's box with his walker and his bat waiting to bat is little Matthew. If he hits a grand slam, they're going to beat us by 1. We want that to happen, don't we? And you can literally see the moment he sees what I see. He goes, oh, I see what you're saying. I'm sorry I yelled at you. You're absolutely right. Umpire, hey, time out. Team, get in here. Team huddles up. Head coach goes, okay, team, here's the plan. When little Matthew hits that ball off the tee, no matter where the ball goes in the field, don't touch it. If we don't touch the ball, we don't have to bring it to home plate. This can allow Matthew to get around the bases. You got it? These are a bunch of 6-year-old little boys and girls. They don't even know what the score is. They're like, okay, bye, hey. They go back to their positions, and Matthew comes to bat. They place the ball on the tee. Matthew steadies himself with his blocker, and he swings. And he misses. They take the ball off the tee, place it on again. Matthew swings again, and he misses again. Now, if he misses 3 times, he's out. They take the ball off the tee, put it on a 3rd time, and this time with everyone collectively holding their breath, Matthew swings the bat for a 3rd time. And he hits the ball about 20 feet down the first base line. Now our catcher instinctively jumps up, starts running toward the ball. I'll never forget our head coach jumped on the field and went, stop! And the boy stopped. And he remembered the plan. He stepped back. Now everybody's watching Matthew for the first time. He drops his bat, grabs hold of that walker, and starts heading down to first on his own. It was about as fast as he could go. And by the time it took Matthew to get down to first, 1 run has scored, 2 runs, 3 runs. The game is tied at 20. And Matthew finally reaches first base, and he's standing there smiling until he starts hearing many people yelling to him, keep going, Matthew, come on, buddy, keep going, because the ball's sitting there. No one's touched it. Matthew's eyes open wide. He grabs hold of his walker. He starts heading down to second. When Matthew was halfway down to second, I was so proud of my son, Jack. My son, Jack, has always had this natural compassion, this empathy to him, ever since he was such a little boy. And he's playing second base. He's like this. And he sees Matthew coming right toward him. So my son stepped out of the way. And as Matthew passed, my son made a decision. He took his glove off. He dropped it to the dirt, and he started clapping for little Matthew. Now that one decision by my son triggered everybody on our team to follow his lead. And every kid on our team, without hesitation, dropped their gloves to the dirt and clapped. Now the adults are going crazy. As you can imagine, the adults are cheering so loud that there are 3 other games going on in this baseball complex we have in our park district that parents are literally leaving their kids' game to see what's happening at our field because it's so crazy. And they're walking and saying, what's happening here? We're like, look at second base. Because now Matthew's rounding second, heading for third. This is the moment I will never forget. Matthew's father was sitting in the stands over by third base. When his son came around second, I guess he could no longer contain his excitement because he jumped out of the stands. He literally climbed over the fence to get on the field as fast as he could. He runs up to third base where the third base coach father just got out of the way. And everybody is staring at Matthew's dad. You can clearly see the tears streaming down the father's face. But his voice rose above everybody's. He's cheering for his son going, yeah, buddy, yeah, come on, keep coming. You look great, keep coming. Matthew gets to third. His dad is screaming, go home and win the game, buddy. You got it. Go win the game. Now, Matthew wasn't crying. He was beaming. And Matthew started heading for home. I'll never forget the sight of his father who marched behind him, cheering him on all the way in. When Matthew got to home plate, as you can imagine, his whole team was out there waiting for him. And when he stepped on that plate, they all mobbed him in a huge team hug. And the best spontaneous moment of all of our kids were so excited. They ran over like, yay, Matthew! All the kids on our team surrounded Matthew, and they were high-fiving him, hugging him. He's just trying to stand up. But the look on that little boy's face, the smile that was beaming coming from him, oh, I will never forget it. And I had to put the final score in the scorebook. 21-20. Yeah, by the numbers, we just lost again. But look at that celebration on that field. And you tell me who lost. And I looked around, I noticed all the adults are crying and hugging each other and just watching the celebration. And I realized that this was a special moment, not one of those moments that happen every day. And I said, Eddie, come on, you got to take this all in. This is a pretty amazing moment. And then it hit me. I started to think about what had to happen for that moment to have actually materialized. The score is 20-12. The only way that team wins that game with the rules that we have is all 9 batters not only have to come to bat, they all have to score. Every one. If we make even one out on them, the numbers won't add up for them to win. And we didn't. Our 2 best guys were fighting each other the whole time. And it also meant that Matthew had to be in that very specific spot on that very specific day to be the hero. And then I thought back to the day I signed my son up. One of my dreams, to be the head coach of a Little League baseball team. It's a dream that is still yet to come true. I got Adeline and Molly. Maybe I'll get to do it one of them. But because I couldn't have the dream, I still wanted to serve, wanted to be part of it. Can I be an assistant? Yes. And they gave me the scorebook on that fateful day. I opened this presentation with a dream that did come true. And now I'm closing it with one that didn't. Because what we come to realize about what life can be is that we might have a plan for what we want our lives to be, and it's important and so vital, but sometimes life has a plan for us. So what does that mean? It means we have to authentically be the best version of who we are, to prepare and perform in the better ways we can, and to know that we're going to be called upon to do all kinds of things. Now in your jobs, as school business officials, you hold the scorebook. You are holding the scorebook. You can see all the different things that have to happen, not only for a school to survive, but to thrive. I do a lot of work in Connecticut in the schools because I'm very closely connected to Sandy Hook Promise and Dylan in the Dylan Wingman program. I'm good friends with Ian Hockley, and I've been working with them on and off for the past 5 or 6 years. And it is amazing to see the incredible community Connecticut is creating, especially amongst their schools. You're a huge part of that, making those schools run, all the different things that have to take place. So as you move forward in this very unprecedented time, a time where we're being challenged to innovate, to be creative, to come up with maybe new ways of thinking and performing, know that it begins within you. Be passionate about what you do. Don't settle for anything less than your best. Like Michael Jordan taught me, it didn't matter if he was playing the Detroit Pistons or the Utah Jazz or a bunch of guys at a pickup game at the health club. He was going to be the best. He was going to strive to be his best. And then, how can I serve? How can I serve others? in your job that is a big part of what you do, serving so many different parts of that school community. Just do the best you can. Be passionate, be prepared, and be ready to perform. Thank you all very much for this very exciting and awesome way of doing this. I truly appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
Well, thank you, Eddie. For those of you that aren't familiar with the 4-minute mile, I think just about everybody is, but every once in a while, no one ever ran a 4-minute mile until May 6, 1954 by Sir Roger Bannister. And to date, less than 1,500 and 500 in the United States. So accomplishing that goal is a pretty big one. The one takeaway I'll give you is, we all can run a 4-minute mile. It might not be on a track. I paddled the giant pumpkin at 8 miles. David made the world's best Gatorade, and nobody's ever going to be able to make or do better. There's always something that we can be the best at, and we can accomplish great things. And I learned a lot from Eddie regarding the teamwork. When I learned about his accomplishments, I just thought you just put shoes on and started running. Hence, if you can see, I don't do much of it, so I don't know much about it. But learning about the rabbits and the people that are involved and all of the folks to be able to get that accomplishment, it's everything's a team effort. So really appreciate that message, Eddie. We're going to wrap up. Our last speaker, last but not least, is Sam Glenn. Sam actually connected me with Eddie. Sam was actually instrumental in 2015 where he did a keynote for Oklahoma ASBO. And his opening line was what gave me the comfort for me to be able to stand up and tell my story for the last 5 years. And he and I have built a bond over those years, and he's got a really special message that he shares, and he is the attitude guy. So it's all you, my friend. Take it away.
Are we ready to go? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Give me a thumbs up, everybody. All right, this is virtual. Come on, you in the chair, lean forward, slap it. Come on, slap it. Yep, come on, slap it. All right, guys. Hey, I just want to let everybody know that this 2-hour presentation is going to go by pretty quick. We're going to take 6 restroom breaks. I'm just kidding. Let me put on some rubber gloves because I'm going to paint for you. There was a shortage on rubber gloves, and a friend of mine who works in HR got me a bunch of these. I just thought it was weird that somebody in HR would have so many rubber gloves. Anyways, some of you are like, Sam, that is just disturbing on so many levels. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about attitude, but I'm also going to talk to you. I know you guys work in the public schools, and there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. And so what's interesting is yesterday, 2 days ago, we took our son. We have a 18-month-old son. We took him to the doctor, and the doctor, she said that on average, she would see maybe one case a week with a young person who has anxiety. So, and now she says her cases have spiked to almost 30 young people under the age of 10 that are battling anxiety. So what does that tell you? That these young people, their worlds have been flipped upside down. I know your world has been flipped upside down. I know as a parent, it's just like, when are we going back to school? These kids, I'm not a homeschool teacher. I mean, I was homeschooled. I took the short bus to homeschool, but there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, and I want to share a couple ideas. And I'm gonna paint as I chat with you. Are you guys familiar with Bob Ross? Everybody, you know Bobby Ross? I spoke at a conference, and I kind of paint different. There's those performance painters that splatter paint everywhere, and I can do that, but I just kind of do it a different way. I like to paint while I speak. Some guy came up to me afterwards, and he's just like, you know who you remind me of? You're like that guy on PBS who's got the big hairdo, and you feel good. So anyways, I'm going to paint while I speak to you. So there's a lot of anxiety, and a lot of stress. And the one thing I often tell leaders, the number one thing that's going to make a huge difference in managing all this change and anxiety is our attitude, because our attitude's either working for us or against us. And as David said earlier, we all have something to complain about, but you got to ask yourself, is your complaining helping out or is your complaining draining? I'll give you an example. When this whole coronavirus started happening, I'm not the most handy person. So we're at home and the dishwasher, it's a brand new dishwasher. The heating element broke. I don't know how to fix that. So I'm the kind of person that when something breaks, we're moving. Call the realtor. Hey, this doorknob's busted. Let's move. Call Remax. So the dishwasher broke, and then the dryer, there's some belt on the dryer. Those of you who know how to fix things, it's a belt. But I don't know. I just know that it was making a sound that it was so loud that it sounded like it wasn't quite human, and it wasn't quite like an animal. I imagine it would be a Sasquatch if it stepped on a tag. It was so loud. And so I was in my art studio painting, and I don't know how to fix that thing. And we can't have anybody in the house. So all of a sudden I see all these humans outside our house just standing there, and they kind of look concerned, like, do we call 911? Because they hear this scream, and I have to usher them on. I'm like, it's just a Sasquatch in the house. Just move it along. I don't know how to fix it. So I was sitting at breakfast, and you got to understand something. I've written over 30 books on attitude. People call me a motivational speaker. I don't think that. I'm a researcher. I like to research, learn, and I've been researching this stuff on how to have better emotional management. And obviously you guys see in the news every day somebody who their attitude's not working for them. And there's something every day where somebody's attitude takes over and there's a heavy consequence to pay. It means that their emotional management skills aren't all that developed. I kind of put a fun spin on it, say, I'm the attitude guy. But really behind the scenes, how do we manage our emotions so they make a difference? So the application of our emotional management works for us and works for others. So I'm sitting at breakfast, and my wife, she says, Sam, how you doing? And I just started venting. I think we can have moments where we vent. Having a positive attitude doesn't stop the junk from happening, but what it does do, it gives us the mental stamina, the clarity, the creativity to deal with what life gives us, to learn from it, to become from it, and to move on from it. So I looked at her and I said, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how to fix a dryer. I don't know how to fix the dishwasher. And my wife, she calls me out. She says, Sam, is your attitude helping the situation or is it hurting? And sometimes we have to have that awareness and think about it. Is our attitude making a difference? Is it encouraging or is it discouraging? In fact, I was out in New York before all this happened, and I took anybody been to New York? It's crazy out there. I had a car service, and somebody swerved over into this guy's lane. I was going to speak to a company called Pfizer. They're a pharmaceutical company. I was going to talk to their leaders about attitude. And as we're heading to the event, somebody swerves into our lane, and the car that I'm in, the driver, he bumps one of those concrete walls and bounces off. Now, if that happened to you, what would your response be? After I wet myself? No. What happened was he was focused. He kept going. And I was a concerned passenger. I said, hey, you just hit the wall, man. And he just smiles and laughs and goes, yes, I know, it happens sometimes. And I'm like, do you need to stop? He goes, no, just keep going. I'm like, hey, that's a good lesson. Sometimes we're going to hit the wall. Sometimes the wall's going to hit us. But we got to choose that attitude to keep moving forward. That attitude that's going to make a difference for those that we work with and those that we ultimately serve every day. So let me share a couple things. I'm going to share 67 points with you really fast. I think the first thing you guys got to remember, those of you that I've spoken at a lot of ASBO conferences, and the one thing a lot of people know me for is that in all my research, probably the number one thing that infuses our attitude with positivity, so we think better, do better, lead better, work together better, move forward together better, is we got to learn to lighten up. In fact, just the other day, is anybody a subscriber to Goalcast? Do you guys know what Goalcast is? Anybody follow that on Facebook or social media? Yeah, okay. Goalcast. They do a lot of videos with stories, inspirational stories, celebrity stories, and they reached out and they did a video about where a bat was loose on a plane, and I was on the plane, and it's a hilarious story. And they reached out and they said, Sam, we have over 1 million views of this video. People love it. And they said it's the first video where people actually laughed. And they started asking me, they're like, what do you think we need right now? I said, not everything is funny right now, but we need to have those moments of laughter, because those moments of laughter can be a great example. I often tell people, you got to remember that, sorry if I'm going in and out of the picture, I'm just getting some paint. You got to remember that humor should be pure, positive, and good. It should never be full. Nobody should ever feel bad from it. But sometimes we have moments where we slip up. Being at home, I have 3 kids under the age of 6. I don't know, maybe my inner child, I have this little Jurassic Park toy. I was going to actually use this when my wife and I had, our first daughter, and my wife, after, she given birth and the medications are wearing off, she's tired, and she's going to be like, where's the baby? Oh, it's right here. I was going to freak her out, but I thought, that would not be a good choice. And then, but I still have this, and since we've been home, I mean, you kind of go a little berserk being at home. So, I went up to the girls' bathroom. Our daughter's 6 and our other daughter's 5. And I put it in their toilet. And I don't mean to be gross, but it just seemed like the right place to put it. And I put the lid down. And I'm going to tell you, I've been laughing down here in my studio. But when it happened, my wife just looked at me, my girls, let's just say for the past couple of days, they haven't been able to go to the bathroom by themselves. And my wife's like, you're going with them. And so my wife she was just like, what part of your brain thought that'd be a good thing to do? And I was like, every part of it. We got to remember to laugh a little bit. Laugh at yourself. It's okay to have a little bit of humor. So how do we reduce some of this anxiety? How do you guys reduce some of this anxiety when you start going back to school, trying to figure things out? Well, I think keeping a good sense of humor is going to help you. But you have to remember that, number one, your attitude is an example. Your attitude is an example. So when my daughter, when she saw Daddy was staying home, she got scared because we noticed that her anxiety went up because now she wasn't going to school. She's having to adapt and do virtual sessions like this. You guys are used to getting together at your conference. Hey, let's just get away, have a good time, and make memories, and go to the open bar. You guys know it's fun to do that. So this is a transition, but here's what you got to understand is not all change has to be bad. You can look for the positive in it. This is still a great way to be connected. And I mean, but we have to remember to keep that right attitude, that perspective and example. And so my wife and I, we sat down and we realized here's a child who's having anxiety because now she can't play with her friends. Now she can't go to Walmart with Dad. And so we realized that the attitude that we demonstrate, our daughter is going to replicate. So you as a leader in your organization, your school, your association, your family, whatever attitude you demonstrate within your household, you can expect people to pick up on that vibe and replicate it. What you put out is going to come back. So you got to remember, you have to have that kind of attitude that makes an example. And it's okay. Not everything is funny. But if it's pure and positive, a little joy in your household, a little joy with your coworkers, a little joy with those that you serve, that truly does make a difference. Yeah, slap it. Okay, let's keep doing this painting. The second thing is this. The second thing you got to remember to reducing anxiety is empathy. Empathy. Empathy is the recognition that we all deal with things differently. And I'll share an ASBO story. Let's go back in time. I was speaking to the Arizona ASBO, and it was one of those things. Does anybody else have seasonal allergies? I have crazy allergies. And when I got to Arizona, it was just like my face was all puffy, and it was brutal. And it wasn't really what I thought my best speech, but I got a standing ovation, and the Arizona ASBO, they were fantastic. They lifted me off the stage and carried me out and bought me steak dinner and lobster. And that's how you can tell if it's a good ASBO, if they do that. Just kidding. But I books after. I don't sell books at events anymore, just because the older I get, I think the lazier I'm getting. I don't like dragging books along. If you want to get one, order one online. I'll autograph it, send it to you. But I was signing books, and there was this guy that obviously an ASBO member, just like many of you, sitting there and just observing this, wondering where it's going. And he had been waiting, and I had to catch a flight. And it was tight flight. I live in Indianapolis. I'm originally from Minnesota, so I bleed purple, sorry. But we live in Carmel, Indiana right now. And not a lot of flights flying into Indiana, so not a lot of flight options. So he wanted to talk, and this is the thing, is we have to have empathy, because we're all on this journey together. As iron sharpens iron, we got to encourage each other and respect that, hey, we're all dealing with emotions that are brand new. And if you watch, remember Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? His whole thing was about, it's okay to experience it, but you also have to deal with it. If you want to do a good emotional management course, honestly, watch a couple episodes of Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That'll put in perspective. It's okay to feel the emotion, but don't let that emotion, or the emotions of anger, frustration, or worry or anxiety overcome your choices and your attitude. You can choose your attitude, and your attitude determines where you go, who you become, what you get. So this guy, he's kind of waiting, and he said, Sam, I know you're in a rush, but he said, I wanted to let you know something. My son died 3 years ago. He's a little boy. And I have incredible empathy for that. And, I don't, sometimes when you demonstrate empathy, guys, you don't have to have the right words, and you don't have to say anything. Maybe it's just sitting there and being in somebody's presence. And he said, Sam, I haven't laughed since my son died. And he said, you know what? My son loved to laugh. And he says, today I had a breakthrough. He says, I haven't laughed in 3 years. And he says, this is the first time I laughed. And he said, I like that you gave us permission to laugh, that we don't have to always be so uptight, even though we're business officials. He said, yes, some of us need to take extra fiber, but that's just part of the job, man. Yeah, some of you are like, yeah. Some of you are like, he's got a good point. Yeah, and so he said, I want to thank you for that. But you know what? Here's the thing. And this is what a lot of times people don't see. They think, well, you get paid to be a speaker and you're on stage. That's the fun part. There is the behind the scenes that nobody sees. And that's where the real work begins. That's where it's at. And I sat there almost for an hour with this guy. And I missed my flight. I had to book a new flight the next day, pay for my own hotel. It was like almost $1,500. But you know what? That's worth it. I didn't tell anybody about that, but that's a story that I have for the ASBO group, that, hey, those of us that work, we're not just trying to get something from the stage. Some of us have the heart to serve, and that, And it's called empathy. And you know what? It goes back to that first principle. Where do we learn empathy? We learn empathy when it's demonstrated to us. When people demonstrate, empathy is education. Do you know that? Empathy teaches us. Empathy is that example and that lesson that we learn and take with us through our whole life, and we demonstrate. People always ask me, Sam, why are you so nice to people that are negative and uptight? Because I used to be negative and uptight. And you know what? Somebody who had empathy took the time to be nice to me. So let's finish this picture. I know it looks a little bit messy, but it kind of leads into our last point. And the last point is encouragement. We got to remember that we're all in this together and that we have to encourage each other. And that's why I'm going to just go ahead and say right now, I am grateful for Josh. Actually, I'm sorry, for Peaches and David. David has the kind of voice that I just want to listen to all day. I'm sitting there trying to get ready and I hear him talking. I'm like, this guy's fantastic. He should put books on audio. And then there's Eddie. I mean, as dysfunctional as what he was, it's still good. I'm just kidding. We have to encourage each other, and we encourage each other by using the best of who we are through our attitude, our example, and empathy. Now, a lot of you might be looking at this. I'm going to be playing with this painting when we go off here, because I know you guys have some important business meetings. But I was speaking for a group in North Dakota, and it was they were running a little short on time. So I painted this picture. This is the most requested painting that I have. It's a very abstract. In the world of art, abstract means messy. And abstract was kind of made famous by, is anybody familiar with Jackson Pollock? Famous artist, Jackson Pollock, yeah. Now, Jackson Pollock, here's a guy, and this has become the whole foundation of all my artwork. This is my message. Here's a guy who would put a canvas on the floor and he would take normal household paint and he would just dribble it and splatter it. And most people, when they look at the mess, what do they see? See, what you focus on, you feed. And so a lot of people would look at his art and they'd just be like, man, that's just messy. But something changed. And if you look up the price of a Jackson Pollock painting, it's a crazy amount of money for somebody that just looks like splattered it. And the reason why is because there was a shift in the attitude. That when you look at a Jackson Pollock painting, most people, some people see a mess, but those with a different perspective, they see a message, they see the meaning, and they see the masterpiece. And right now, we're all going through an abstract in our life. And truly, with the right attitude, you can actually find the meaning, the message, and the masterpiece in your abstracts, both personally and professionally, whether there's a virus or not. And so this painting is called Grow Through What You Go Through. And it's got a lot of layers. And so I was doing this event in North Dakota. And I'll bring the painting in a little bit closer for you guys to see. But it's all wet right now. And so I had done one of these paintings up. And the great thing about it goes back to David's point. These are fun because you can be as creative as you want. There's really, as Bob Ross says, there's no wrong way. You can do it any way you want. And so this lady walks in, she sees this painting, and her first reaction was, man, that looks like something my 3-year-old could do. And she didn't know that I did the painting. I was just like, yeah, I know what you mean. That is messy. And what was she focused on? See, you guys going back into the new school year, you got to think about what is your focus? You have to encourage each other to think better so you do better. She looked at the mess and she fed the mess. And it wasn't until she heard the message that her perspective changed, that these are all abstracts. This is a part of life. This is the stuff that really does happen to us every day. And it is with our attitude. That is the starting point. When you listen to Eddie and David and Peaches, everything they're talking to you about, it all begins with attitude. And so when I finished that painting, or when they finished my speech, they auctioned it off. Now, sometimes my paintings at certain events will auction off for a crazy amount. The most my painting has ever gone for was $40,000. And that was to support, I believe, the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So when people hire me and I paint these pictures at their events, they auction them off, and you know, sometimes they go for $100, and we all see value. We all see our things in different ways, and so they auctioned off the painting. I think it sold for a couple thousand, and you know who bought it? That lady. That lady bought it. She came up, and you know what? Here's the thing: is she saw it in a whole different way. She got up there and she started telling her story. She was just like Sam. She goes, this over here. She was pointing out all the abstracts and attaching a story to it. She says, this right here, this is my mom who just died from cancer. She said, this over here, my divorce. And then she said, this right here, I have 2 teenagers. But then she looked at me and she says, Sam, you know what I'm most grateful for today? And I was like, what's that? I'm so grateful my ex-husband bought this for me today. I was like, you know what? I'm going to change my name on the back. But here's the thing, guys, is you have to grow through what you go through. Every day is going to give us abstracts. And the 3 things that we got to remember is, are we being an example that makes a difference? Are we demonstrating empathy? And are we being encouraging? I want to give you guys one last story, and then I think I'm done. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know it's kind of hard to sit there, watch your laptop or your phone, but you did it. You did it. Good for you. I want to give you guys one little story here, one little message to grow through what you go through. I'm going to try to bring this in a little bit. Let me see. Now, Josh is going to be giving this away as a gift. So somebody's going to be getting this in the mail soon. And I'm going to fix it up, play with it a little bit. But there's a glare in here. So grow through what you go through. I know it sounds very cliche, but when you look down here, it does look messy. But here's the thing. This is the way life is. This is what we're going through. And you have a choice moving forward. And I know it sounds very cliche. You can become bitter because of your adversities and abstracts, or you can grow and become better. And I'll definitely take a picture of this, send it to Josh so he can show all of you. But here's a story I want to send you out on a high note. When I was traveling, I have really enjoyed doing speeches this way because I've been traveling for 20 years. And people keep saying, you got to look for the opportunity. And I love it. Last summer, or I think it was like, I don't know, around August, I did 29 teacher in services around the United States. I was exhausted, but I love working with educators. I love having a good time because you know how the in-service start. Sometimes they're just awesome, and other times you're like, what am I doing here? What's going on, Roger? And so I love doing the in-services. And this year, we got all these schools calling us, and there's so many calling about in-services that we're just going to do an online summit. And I'm really excited about that. I love doing this. I have found my opportunity. And but sometimes things don't always go the way you want, and that's okay. You just got to remember to keep that right attitude. So I was flying home from one of my last events to do, before this whole virus thing took over. And I was, you know how they serve you the beverage on the airplane, and they put down the coaster, which is a napkin. They put down the napkin, and I always get ice water. I always drink a ton of ice water when I fly or travel. And it was on a regional flight. Did you guys know the regional flights? There's the normal flight, then another flight, and then there's just like, hey, how are you? And so, you're shoulder to shoulder. The guy next to me fell asleep. And they did the beverage service, and the lady, she put down the napkin, and I was chewing sugar-free gum. just chewing some gum. Sometimes I like to freshen my breath. And I put down the gum in the napkin, and I didn't realize that I had put the gum in the napkin, and in comes the seasonal allergies. So I drank some of the water, and my nose started itching. And I'm not gonna just use my hands and just make it look weird. So I grabbed the napkin, not even thinking, and this is a great lesson. You have to laugh at yourself, because you're gonna do stuff that it's just, things are gonna happen. The next time you fall, just lay on the ground and go, I'm safe. Or jump up and yell tequila. So I grabbed the napkin and I went to go, itch my nose, and I didn't realize that the gum was in the napkin, and I had just shoved it up the right nasal cavity. I'm gonna be honest with all of you business officials. There is no eloquent way to remove sugar-free gum from your nasal cavity, because sugar-free gum, it's just sticky. So I start pulling it out, and I'm not trying to be gross, but it just happened, okay? Sharon, I see your face. It just happened, Sharon. Sharon, I want to give you a big hug. So I pull the gum out like this, and it's not all out. And so I have to incorporate my other hand. So I have gum hanging from my nose like this. I look over at the couple sitting next to me. They look like deer in headlights, like, and I didn't know what to say, because here I am holding this gum from my nose, and stuff just happens. And so I look at him, I'm like, hey, can I borrow one of your hands? And the wife, she's kind of like, oh. And the husband laughed. And then the guy next to me, he woke up. Imagine sitting next to a stranger, you wake up, and the stranger next to you is holding gum from his nose with two hands. And he looks at me, he goes, what are you doing? I said, I was answering him honestly. I said, I've got gum up my nose. And he's just like, why is there gum up your nose, man? And I was like, because I put it there. He's just like, why would you do that? And I think he was so disturbed that it was so worth it. But eventually I got the gum out. But life is going to give us lots of those gum in the nose moments. And I wanted to leave you with that little bit of laughter, because joy truly is strength. And joy, it cultivates optimism and strength. And I want to encourage you guys, ASBO, thank you for having me. Remember, stick together, grow together, keep moving forward together. I'm going to work on this painting for a while, and it's going to make a great gift when you get it. I hope you enjoy. You guys, God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. And in case anybody's curious, let me move over so you can see it. There's my autograph. This was my attempt at a painting. Something, one of the points that Sam said about, making, creating, being innovative and doing things differently now. I did a paint night for my son's school that I would never done in person. So this was my first attempt at painting ever. I'm going to leave the professional stuff to Sam. I'm going to close out. First of all, David, Eddie, and Sam, I can't thank you enough. This was a crazy idea to do, and I sent the email to you guys, and all three of you responded within minutes, and just all of you said the same thing. Whatever you need, we're here for you, and I can't thank you enough. To have people like that in my life that help me grow and help me grow and go through things at the same time is pretty darn amazing, and I'm very lucky to have you in my life. I do want to thank Dude Solutions. They gave me. So great timing wise for all of you, and thanks for doing that. The painting that Sam did, I want you to have that with all of the hard work that you put into for the events this year, for them to be canceled. For coming in as president for 2020, 2021, there's going to be a lot that you guys are going to go through in the next 12 months. So I'm going to have the painting shipped out to you. You'll have it sometime in the next couple days, the next week, and hope you have a good place for it, so that while you go through your year of presidency, you can have that as a reminder. You guys, I got a couple of texts from you. while this is going on, you truly do inspire me. You inspire me with your perseverance, your hard work, your commitment to your communities. It's because of what you do that gets me excited every day for me to do what I do. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe. I love you all. Have a great board meeting, and hope to see you in person soon.
Thank you very much, Josh, and thank you to all of our speakers. We so appreciate everything. So at this point, I'll end the recording, and we can